So when should you file for a provisional patent application? I ran across this question in a popular online forum the other day, and the answers were all over the place. I didn't feel like any of them took into account all the factors that should go into making the right decision. So what we're going to do today is go over the considerations. I've broken them into two big camps, primarily because the attorneys on this forum seem to have one set of answers, and the folks that were inventors and entrepreneurs seem to have another set of answers. And so hopefully we're going to reconcile them all. What I'm going to do is go over each consideration pretty quickly, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about them. So in this business camp of considerations, you have the considerations factors that tend to weigh toward doing something now and filing now, and then you have a few factors that tend to weigh toward waiting to do something later. In the camp of doing something now, you're going to see that some inventors like the idea of having a patent pending. Let's face it, it's kind of cool. It shows that you're doing some due diligence and that you take your invention seriously. Another factor is that it helps to lock in a contract. Now this kind of goes to a legal consideration as well, but because you have something tangible that you can point to and refer to in a non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement, it makes that agreement tighter and easier to enforce. On the marketing side of things, you can market with confidence if you already have a patent pending, because you aren't going to trigger the grace period, and you're not going to show your hand to a competitor in a way that lets them rush to the patent office and beat you there. So that's another good reason to move on a patent application now. And a fourth reason on the business side is clarity of action. Business owners know that by making a decision and beginning to move forward, it crystallizes the entire team toward achieving a better design and moving forward with a product. Weighing against filing a provisional patent application now is, of course, the cost, and in addition is that the idea may be changing. Now, I want to fight with this one in a moment, but I saw in some of the forums that if your idea is still in development and if you're not ready yet to go to market, then you should delay filing for a provisional patent application. Again, I disagree. I'll tell you why in a second. A third reason is that you don't know how. You don't know how to either make the invention, or maybe you don't know the patent process well enough to be confident about it. So again, we're going to address those here in a second. On the legal front, of course, there are also factors for moving forward now, and there's a reason to wait. On the moving forward now, on the legal side, is that we do live in a first-to-file world. If somebody else beats you to the patent office disclosing their idea first in a provisional patent application or a utility, guess what? They get the patent, you don't. In addition, we in the US do live in that 1-year grace period, and you only have 1 year to get something on file. So whether you may have disclosed something to a potential licensee, maybe you have a former employee who's taken employment somewhere else, there are all kinds of ways for the idea that you have and want to protect to kind of get out of the bag and into the public, and you want to stop it. Additionally, internationally, if you don't have a patent application on file before a public disclosure, it can destroy your ability to protect the idea in certain countries. This is something to go over on a country-by-country basis beyond the scope of this, but we can talk about that later. But it is a reason. Then on the consideration about why to wait on the legal side is really all about cost. And when you see an attorney answering these questions, just remember, no lawyer has ever been disbarred for telling their client to spend more money on legal services. So when you see the lawyers answer the questions, they're going to tell you, file something now, here's why. So what's the right decision for you? Well, I think having a patent pending is important. I like the idea of locking in contracts and having something tangible that you can point to. I think being smart about your marketing is also a great reason to move forward sooner than later. Besides, at trade shows, I tell my clients, if you see a competitor building something and displaying something, and if you have an idea for improving it, file for your provisional application to cover that improvement as fast as you can, because that will maximize your chances of getting a patent. I'm sure other attorneys tell their clients the same thing. Clarity of action is, as a business owner myself, something that just has power all by itself. Now, I mentioned that there are some ideas that or factors that weigh toward waiting on the business side that I've seen argued. And money, let's face it, a provisional is not that much money. But the thought that your idea and your product may change, that was a really legitimate reason to wait back in the era where the first to invent got the patent. However, because the first to file an application gets the patent today, if you're waiting but your competitor is filing, guess what? They're going to get the patent. So I really don't think this is a consideration that's valid any longer. Also, the idea that you don't know how to further implement your idea down to a point where you feel comfortable patenting it, or that you don't know the law, well, guess what? You can delegate those reasons. So for example, when it comes to the law, rely on your patent attorney. If you don't know how to finish up the engineering on your product, guess what? You can actually get a patent as long as you disclose your idea in sufficient detail that an ordinarily skilled engineer can finish out the development. So I don't think that's a valid reason to wait either. So basically, we're left with the money. If you can afford to file a provisional, I think you should. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask below. There's also a worksheet that you can download below so you can actually work through these considerations yourself and come to your own conclusion. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.